For your health this morning, breast cancer rates in women under 40 on the rise. Some regions are surging. It's alarming news as we've been reporting cancer rates in younger people are increasing. And Dr. David Geier here with us this morning to break down this new study and ways to stay on top of your risk. This is a really interesting study, and anything, turns a light on when you hear cancer under 40.
Yeah, and we've seen this go up. We were talking off air that the rates in 60 and older are actually decreasing nationwide, but where we're seeing breast cancer rates go up are under 40, which is particularly problematic because we don't screen typically for women under 40, and so it's being caught in more advanced stages when it happens.
I was going to ask, what do you think this suggests about screening? 40, of course, a recommended age, but the study shows 40 might be too late. So what should people do?
Yeah, I think before, getting guidelines changed is a long process, lots of data, and an individual who's worried about it shouldn't necessarily wait for guidelines to change. You can always talk to your doctor and go over risk factors, family risk factors, potentially genetic risk factors, lifestyle risk factors, and if you're deemed to be high risk, go ahead and get screened. Don't necessarily wait till you're symptomatic.
There's a tool that you can just Google online and see what your risk number is, and that's a tool that I think a lot of radiologists use. This study looked at specific regions and 5 states, and a lot of this was centered around the Northeast.
Yeah, we've suspected a geographic risk to breast cancer for a long time, and is it something about where you live or individual factors there? But as you mentioned, the Northeast not only has some of the highest rates of early onset breast cancer, but they're increasing. The West typically has the lowest rates, but they're increasing the fastest. Fortunately, good news for us, the South is pretty stable, all things being considered. But is it so much the region, or is it more city versus rural? Because the cities generally have higher rates than rural areas. And is it something about race? Certainly Black women have the highest rates of early onset breast cancer, so that may play a role. What part does geography by itself play? We don't know.
There's a lot of factors that go into this, and like you mentioned, it's kind of hard to separate and see exactly which one might be the reason.
Right, and we'll learn more about that with more studies. Is it, as we were talking about off the air, is it something about air pollution in the environment? Is it alcohol rates? Alcohol is a huge risk factor for early onset breast cancer. So is it more in the amount that people drink in different parts of the country? Is it something about delayed childbearing in certain parts of the country? There's a lot of different parts to this.
And that's a big thing now, especially with infertility on the rise. There's so many factors that go into this. What would be your recommendation for people watching right now who are like, oh my goodness, am I at risk?
Yeah, again, I think just because it's a guideline, all right, you don't have to do it until 40, doesn't mean you can't talk to your doctor, go in for annual exams and just talk about some of these risks. Don't necessarily wait till you're having symptoms, because again, as we started this, under 40, not only are the rates increasing, but when it's caught, they're at more advanced stages. So, the upside of in your 60s, 70s, you're getting mammograms, so you're catching it earlier, which is not what we're not doing in the younger patients.
Yeah, this topic is especially important to me. I recently shared on my Facebook page a little bit about my story. I'm high risk. I'm not 40, but I'm screened every 6 months. It's so important to talk to your doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's take power in your own hands.
Exactly. All right, Dr. David Geier, thanks so much for joining us.